Thank you. There's a lot of value placed on your appearance.
It's a direct reflection of the inner world.
That's a big one. I think it's the most important thing in your entire life. I think it takes precedent over everything.
The most authentic way to travel. I have a few rules. Like, if you really want to count the country, be there for at least a few days. You got to have a conversation with the local, and you have to try at least one food from that place. Totally.
I want to get into your worldliness and your experience while traveling to 45 different countries, what you've learned across the board in all of these different cultures.
I can think of a few specific examples that really changed me for the better.
I found my voice of reason to be science.
Without your health, you can't even give or love your loved ones in the best way that you want. If you come up a little slower, this is called the press. Awareness of core, the shoulders, and the legs float up. Good. Breathe, and then slowly release your hands. We live in bubbles, man.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Thank You for Sharing.
For me, yoga's always been about connecting with others. It's an energy exchange. In traveling the world, sharing my yoga practice wasn't just something that happened overnight. Teaching yoga in different countries has taught me that we're more alike than we are different.
Today, we're joined by Jonah Kest. Jonah was born into a yoga legacy, with his father, vinyasa yoga pioneer Jonny Kest, and his mother, Milla Kest, as one of the first yoga business owners and yoga teacher training programs in the Midwest. He was destined to follow the path. Today, Jonah travels the world practicing and teaching Ashtanga and Vinyasa classes, workshops, and at retreats. If you'd like to support this series, a like and subscribe makes a big difference. All right, let us begin with the conversation between Ty and Jonah. Chapter 1. Threads of Fulfillment. Happiness, Presence, Gratitude.
Yeah, I'm enjoying life a lot. What about you? Are you enjoying life?
Yeah, I am. I feel happy. I'd love to talk about more what that means, but I feel like...
You didn't sound... Well, what is that? What the heck?
Yeah, happiness is an interesting concept. I feel like for me, I've been more... Right now, I feel very purpose-driven. So with that comes, I believe, happiness, but I also feel like life's moving really fast, and I need to give myself more time to slow down and enjoy those moments. If I'm being really honest, I could just say, yeah, I travel the world, I teach yoga, I'm so happy, but I'm still finding that balance.
How old are you? 28?
27, turning 28 in March of next year.
And do you feel as you've gotten older, time has seemingly moved faster? Would you say that's accurate for yourself?
Dude, 100%.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking about this at dinner last night. There's some theories for that.
I have my own theory, but
yeah,
I'm
I'd be curious to hear yours. But I think as we get older, we just kind of see the repetitiveness of life, and it starts to just like illusionary seem faster, as well as it's a different percentage of our lifetime.
Yes, that's my theory, yes.
I hear that. I'd love to.
So my elaboration on that theory is, so when you're 1 year old and you have your first birthday into 2 years old, that 1 year chunk is 50% of your entire existence. So 1 year is 50% of the entirety of your existence. So therefore, 1 year...
You're living to 100?
Yes. Well, no. So if you're 2 years old,
yep.
1 year is 50% of your existence.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Wow. So
when you're 99 years old, that year into 100 is only 1% of your existence.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you put it into perspective, it's like.
It's to the point that you're making. As you get older, the value that a single year has decreases percentage-wise.
Totally.
So when you're young, a single year is like a greater chunk of your life. Therefore, I think it holds a little bit more weight. But by the time you get into your 70s, 80s, 90s, a singular year is a smaller and smaller chunk of your overall life.
Right. So in theory, it seems like it's moving faster, which makes sense, and I think that's how a majority of people live their life. But I'd like to reverse that. I'd like to change that, because imagine if we could slow our lives down, and let's just say we only did have 20 years left, make that last as long as possible by being ever more so present And, you have more time to practice that art of really slowing things down.
Can you break down what you mean by present?
Yeah, so
what does that mean?
Being in the present is essentially, pretty straightforward, not being in the past and not being in the future.
Okay.
So the present
What
moment...
do you mean by being? Like being in the past, being in the future?
So oftentimes we're either reflecting, we're regretting things in the past.
Okay.
Or
Yep.
there's a lot of different things that we're either living in the past, of things that either happened that were good or bad.
Yes.
There's no preference. Or we're either in the future fantasizing,
Or stressing about.
or stressing, we have anxiety.
Right.
So rarely ever are we in the present moment unless, there are a few ways, but to do that simply. But most of the time it happens naturally when we're when we're having conversation, when we're making eye contact and having real connection. You notice, if you ever look at someone in the eyes, time kind of stops. Or you're with an animal. Animals are super present. Young kids are super present because that's our innate essence. Right. We unlearned this concept. Right. Look at a kid, dude. You ever be around a baby? How present are they?
Yes.
They're not thinking about
anything else. They're incapable of thinking beyond the scope of their immediate reality.
And one of the reasons is because they're so in tune with what they're feeling. We kind of numb ourselves. Babies, when they feel an emotion or some sort of sensation, they just cry and they don't care where they are.
Right.
We don't do that.
But I think you would agree that having the time presence of a baby is not advantageous as an adult. So there is a degree of having to live a little bit in the past, having to live a little bit in the future, but majority in the present. It's not advantageous to just go with the wind fully in the present, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
One of the easiest ways to be present is to stay with your breath.
Okay.
And what I mean by
I've heard you say that, yeah. What do you mean by that?
This is a great tool because out of all the internal mechanisms in our body, your respiratory system, your breath, breathing in and out, is the only voluntary mechanism that you have, which means you can either stop it, if you want, you can hold your breath, or you can consciously breathe.
Right.
Whereas you can't do that with your heart beating. You can't do that with anything else in your body. So as soon as you give importance or observe the flow, it automatically brings you into the present moment because your breath breathing is always in the present moment. So it's basically like tying you to it, if that makes sense.
And I would imagine that's why breath work is so vital in yoga and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's one benefit. There's so many other psychological and physical benefits to breath work too, from a detox perspective, from, a nervous system perspective. Yeah, so there's a lot of physical benefits, psychological benefits to breath work. We take over 23,000 breaths every single day. So you can imagine if you were to start giving importance to the quality of those breaths, it potentially could increase the quality of your life and overall health.
Yes.
We do it a lot.
So why, I understand that you encourage people to live in the present. For what reason would you say does living in the present, how does that benefit someone? How does that lead to a better life? Because there's a lot of talk about living in the present. It's great for you, all of that stuff. But how does that actually translate to being better for someone's life?
Because when you're present, you can really be with what is. You're not trying to be somewhere else.
Right.
Because if, right now we're having this great conversation, we're in Central Park. If I'm thinking about, dinner tonight or the yoga class that I'm gonna be going to later today, it would take away from the connection that we're having right now. I think people that tend to not be present, for example, let's talk about one of my faults. Being on my phone. Technically it's my work. I spend a lot of time on my phone, but that can take me away from some of my more intimate relationships.
Yes.
So there needs to be that balance of being present with the people that you're around, being present with yourself, because if you're not, you're missing all this stuff that's going on and you're ignoring a lot of signals and overall feelings.
I agree with that. I fully agree with that. And there's a self-awareness component.
That's huge. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I've had many a talk with my friends and in prior podcasts about the importance of being self-aware, especially in today's insanely attention-sucking society that we live in, right? Everything is nagging at our attention. Everything from, phones, TV, other people, work, all of that stuff, pulling at our attention. And I think it's so vital for people, if they want to live a very holistic and healthy, fulfilled life, it starts with being self-aware. And that deeply ties into the be present aspect. And another word that, kind of a buzzword these days, but that ties into that sphere is being grateful. And I know that you're a big be grateful kind of guy.
Yep.
And I think that is heavily linked to being present and happy as well.
Isn't it funny how they all kind of interweave and connect?
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't think it's funny isn't the right word. I think
funny, but not even ironic. It's just, it makes sense.
It absolutely does make sense. And the thing is, it makes
cool
sense.
How you brought it all together like that.
The thing is, it makes sense, but it isn't executed on the population. Like people, it's difficult to be present. It's difficult to be grateful. Actually, sorry, it's not difficult. It's easier to not be present. It's easier to not be grateful. It's easier to not be self-aware. Humans like easy.
It's the autopilot route.
Yeah, we're trained for easy.
It's something where we have to go out of our way, but so the idea is, once you cultivate certain rituals and daily habits and practices where you do things that encourage all three of those things you had just mentioned, gratitude, being present, and what was the other one? I think happiness.
Well, happiness.
Like something even as small as writing in your journal a few things that either for yourself or someone close to you that you're grateful for.
Right.
And the whole idea behind that is we can tell ourselves we're grateful, or we can say, oh, this great thing happened, I'm grateful for the weather outside, but there's this law that says you don't really believe something until you see it. So the practice of continuously seeing how grateful you are actually allows you to believe how grateful you are, which in turn makes you appreciate what you have and ultimately brings more happiness. Because grateful, what's the quote? It says, happy people aren't grateful, grateful people are happy.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So,
grateful people are happy.
Yeah. Because you think once I have all these amazing things, then I'll be grateful.
Right. Can you break down what grateful means? Because, I use the word buzzword, and I think grateful is certainly a buzzword because it's tossed around with such little gravity and weight in today's society, right? Be grateful for this, be grateful for that. It's so surface level at this point. So what does being grateful mean to you?
You really love peeling back the layers.
Of course, dude. Because speaking of
you're challenging me, and it's nice to do this because it's making me actually be more self-aware and understand why we're doing these things, because sometimes we can forget. But to answer your question, I think gratitude, this overarching theme is I think acknowledging where things come from, and being there's two ways you can look at it. Grateful people are often people who have humility and compassion, but ultimately gratitude comes from a place of no, I guess that wouldn't be it. What I'm thinking is okay, I'm grateful to have this connection with you, but we would have never had this connection if it wasn't for social media. So really going into the source of where things are coming from, even from the food on your plate too, the soil, the farmers, the transportation, the grocery store.
Right. It gives you a deeper appreciation for it if you can understand the amount of work that went into creating what's in front of you.
Exactly. And
it gives you a more rich perspective.
Yes. Well said.
Yes.
So
and
getting to the source is really key. And that could be if you're listening, that could be a cool gratitude practice. If you are grateful for something, peel back the layers. We got to put that on a t-shirt or something.
Peel back the layers. Yeah.
And see how far you can get back. If from even a tiny little raisin from the grape and or a glass of wine, the simplistic things in life, because there's trillions of things if we sat down, and I say trillions because they are pretty infinite, of things that we have to be grateful for. But it could be something very small and nuanced. It could be the smell of a flower. It could be a kiss from a loved one.
Yeah.
It could be literally anything.
Right.
But it doesn't always have to be something even for yourself too.
What do you think should be the things that you prioritize gratefulness for? Because as you just mentioned, there's a trillion things to be grateful for.
Yes.
And you can be grateful for everything and anything. I can be grateful that this lawn has been tended to prior to us coming here, right? Like, but you have to divert your energy somewhere. Hi.
Sir, how much money are you offering?
For the chairs?
Yeah.
We were willing to pay for the table and then just grab the chairs.
Yeah. I got you on Venmo, right?
Yeah, but how much do you get?
How much do you want?
Because you're using my stuff.
Yeah. We'll give
We're
you whatever.
In the middle of an episode. Can we talk to you?
No, it's okay. It's
No.
Yeah, we got you. Don't
we'll
worry.
pay you whatever you need. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so
bro.
much.
This is awesome, man. Cut. No. Or we can keep it.
We'll see, dude. I really like keeping the free flow nature of things.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of these like interactions in my previous podcast. Like people walk through the frame all the time. It's kind of sick though. I really like this concept.
Yeah.
I was
Grateful for the chairs. We'll show our gratitude after the episode.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. So there's 1.5 trillion things to be grateful for in your life.
Yep.
How do you go about prioritizing what to be grateful for?
For me, it's not necessarily something I like prioritize, like from like thing to thing. I think it's just something that's more of like
Sure. What aspects of your life do you prioritize, would you say?
I would say the biggest gratitude practice that I have is before a meal.
Okay.
Just like, it's
Yeah.
like a small little thing that takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But just like before I go into my food, I'll just like close my eyes and just have a moment of gratitude
Right.
for simply having nourishing food in front of me. I think even just small practices like that add up throughout the day, and ultimately give you a greater appreciation for life. Being grateful for our moving legs. We were able to go on a run this morning. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just keep it to the present today.
Yeah.
You know, being able to just have the freedom and flexibility to travel to New York for a few days.
Yeah.
Things like this, being able to do what you love, like,
For sure.
you know, content creation, you know, problem solving.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really, I've heard this, gratitude is not a complicated practice.
Okay.
It's a simple practice for complicated people.
Interesting. What do you mean by that? It's a simple.
Because
Practice
people
for
like,
complicated
and I
people.
say the same thing about meditation, but people think that these concepts are so complicated, but they're in fact so simple for the complicated person. And when I say complicated person, I mean like the busy person that works a lot or has a lot of stressors or
Yeah.
you know, a million things going on. This can actually simplify your life. It doesn't need to be something that, you know, the goal is to make it seamless. You don't need to prioritize it, or, I mean, it is helpful for some people to have, you know, a system.
Chapter 2: Seamless Integration, the Path to Consistent Health.
Right. And I like you use the word seamless. And I think integrating any beneficial practice into your life, the goal should be seamless integration. Because, you know, if you're going out of your way to do something, it's inevitably quite difficult to be consistent with it. And I think consistency is what breeds, you know, an overall enrichment of health, is being consistent with beneficial things.
Yes.
Gratitude being one of them. Journaling, having your diet in check, fitness, all of that stuff
Yep.
is just it's a consistent journey. And I think the only way to accomplish that consistency is by working to seamlessly integrate it. And by seamlessly integrate, I mean like making it as easy as possible to do it every single day. I think that is a component that a lot of people miss out on. And I'm a very like optimize first kind of guy. Like I'm a very efficient, optimize first kind of guy. And if a healthy practice, if I have to go too far out of my way to do it, my first inclination is, okay, how can I do this quicker? How can I do this more seamless?
Yep.
How can I not have to rearrange my day to accomplish this? All of that stuff. And I feel like people forego that step. So they engage in a healthy behavior, but they have to dance around all of their day to accomplish that healthy behavior.
And then it takes away from those other aspects of their life, or it just
It
makes
prevents consistency because there's so much friction in order to accomplish that healthy task that people are like, it's so hard to be healthy. It's impossible. I can't do it. I can't eat healthy. I can't go to the gym. It's too hard. But there are things that you can do to mitigate the friction.
Oof.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
It
like,
can be like there. Go ahead.
No, this is beautiful, man. Like this is the name of the game. And it's easier said than done, but
Of course.
once you put that system into place, then it's like you become like the water in the river, you know, there's just more fluidity, less rigidity, like you're just going and
Yes.
and everything starts to kind of work for each other.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yes, yes. People ask me all the time, like, how I've managed to get in the gym majority of my life. Like, I would say I've been consistently in the gym for the past 10 years. And I feel like people think of that as such a daunting task. But for me, it's not a daunting task at all. It's actually harder for me to not be in the gym. I've integrated it so deeply into my life that
Why would you say, I'm curious, like, that's interesting. I want to go down that. Why would you say it's harder for you not to go to the gym?
because it's a part of my routine. It's a part of my lifestyle. I feel off when I'm not in the gym. I'm very conscious of the downsides of not going into the gym, that my life becomes harder when I don't go to the gym. My life is actually easier when I do go to the gym. So it's like a little shift, you know? People are like, oh my gosh, dude, that's insane. You've been going to the gym for so long. How do you maintain that consistency? But I say to them, it's actually freaking easier for me to go to the gym than not. And I think that applies to maybe your relationship with the gym or being grateful, let's say.
Yeah,
it's probably easier for you to be grateful than it is to not be, to an extent.
No, totally. Like, you know, once you start, it's like once you start eating healthy, then the donut becomes like way more noticeably detrimental.
Yes, yep.
When you're eating unhealthy all the time, the donut's just a donut, or fast food's just fast food.
Right.
But if you start implementing like, you know, high quality living foods into your diet, and then you have something on a lower vibration or something that's not as alive, or,
Yes.
you know, you're like, whoa, I feel heavy. These seed oils, man, like they're killing me.
Yeah, I feel that way, very much so, yeah.
It's kind of like you with the gym. I always say, like, for me, it's like my yoga practice.
Yeah.
It's my gym in your essence. So
for sure.
There's an analogy I like to use. Like, if I miss yoga one day, it's kind of like I miss brushing my teeth.
Okay, well, that's a good one.
So, you know, the first day I notice, I'm like,
Yeah.
and then if it goes 2 days, like, I really notice.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if
yeah.
it goes 3 days, other
people notice. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's like, it's almost maintenance for myself to perform optimally in
Right.
every other thing that I do.
Yes.
Because like for me as yoga, as you the gym,
Yep.
it's not like we're going to the Olympics for yoga or weightlifting.
No.
But it's essentially creating a solid base for us to like perform. And like I liked what you said today, like even our morning run, yeah, we got a good cardio in, but like cognitively,
Yes.
I feel sharper that
For
we
sure.
moved our bodies today and
Yep.
sweated.
Yep. Our baseline is at we've established a very high baseline of operation as humans, you and I. Like, we operate at a very high degree of productivity and efficiency, all of that. Like, and in order to meet, what would you say?
I said striving for that.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I think we've achieved that, and in order to maintain that, there's a certain regiment that comes with that, and it's the pursuit of that maintenance of a high degree, of a high value person, that is fun and what's the right terminology? It's admirable. It's admirable because it's difficult.
Yeah, I think you had
I'm not trying to
posted-
toot my own horn or toot our
No,
horns,
no.
but it's
I understand what you're saying, like, and I think you had posted something the other day about some guy who said, you know, you see someone that walks into a room that is like physically fit. All of a
Yes,
sudden you
yes.
start making those correlations. This guy must,
Right.
you know, be successful, or this guy has a really solid disciplined routine, or I can't, he went into some minute details, but it's,
the crux of it was like your physical appearance speaks volumes.
it does.
So the way that you conduct yourself and the way that your physical fitness, health, all of that plays into a lot. There's a lot of value placed on your appearance.
Yeah, and essentially your outer appearance.
Yeah.
Not that it's just about aesthetics, but generally just you can tell when someone is in their best shape or is in good shape.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't need to have six-pack abs or anything like that, but you can just tell when someone has their full potential unlocked.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a direct reflection of their inner world. You know?
Yes. That's a good one. Let's shift topics a little bit.
Totally.
I want to get into your worldliness and your experience while traveling to 45 different countries, and how those experiences have shaped you into the person that you are today?
Yeah.
And I'll guide you a little bit more.
Yeah, please.
I've dipped my feet into the realm of traveling, and I've certainly experienced being exposed to new cultures, and I think it's amazing. And it shifts your perspective on like the culture that you grew up in. So I'm curious how your culture has been shifted and what you've learned across the board in all of these different cultures and how that's impacted you.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a few specific examples that really changed me for the better. I mean, I think the most cliche, but for the reason, is just realizing how fortunate we are. I think, anyone that lives in a suburban city in the US or even Canada, I don't want to speak for you, but we live in bubbles, man. Like, everything's made for us. We live in boxes that have other boxes that can just give us anything that we want. Convenience has never been at a higher rate. We can Amazon something and it's here same day.
Yeah.
You go to a country like India and you just realize like, not that it's better or worse, but it's just different. You realize that's not how a majority of the human beings on planet Earth live.
Okay.
There's I think 1.3 billion people in the population in India.
Right.
So that's roughly speaking, that's like 1/7 of humanity.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you never go to India or you never go to China, which is also like probably over 1 billion people, for sure over, you're missing how a huge part of the population lives their life. It's humanity.
What do you think that you gain from that knowledge?
What I gain from that knowledge is, I think, having more compassion for people.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Being less judgmental.
Why? Why are you less judgmental?
Because I think that the more you're exposed to, the less you realize, or the more you realize that we are different.
Right.
I mean, we're all more the same than we are different. That's an interesting one, but like we have different upbringings, we have different, so it kind of just humbles you in that sense, and I think gives you a different perspective and appreciation for your own life, but also, the unique things that their culture provides and offers. So like when I go to India, I try to live like the Indians. Or when I go to Japan, I try to live like the Japanese.
Would you say, is culture shock a word that ever comes to mind for you when you enter these new countries? Are you ever scared that your upbringing will not mesh with the societal culture of that country?
I've never had fear traveling.
Really?
Never.
Oh, that's so interesting. I do have fear.
You do,
I think. Or an anxiety of engulfing myself in a new culture.
I think that you can, and it'd be curious to see where that fear comes from for you, because ultimately you can either see the world as a friendly place or an unfriendly place.
Yeah.
And if you see it as a friendly place, oftentimes.
Okay. Okay. We got 2 minutes left? We just got 2 minutes left.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll fuck it. We'll do it somewhere else. That's fine.
Oh, we're just getting deep.
It's okay. It's fine. No worries.
Chapter 3, Navigating Beliefs, Science, Spirituality, and Discourse.
All right, we're back in action, my dude.
Yeah, after getting kicked out.
This is a part of life, being able to navigate the obstacles, adapt.
Yeah. I just heard today there's a quote, not a quote, I don't know the quote, but it's not the strongest that survive, it's not the smartest that survive, it's the ones that can adapt to the highest degree of efficiency.
I agree with that, and I think that's what perpetuates consistency of what you were saying. Like the ones that know how to adapt will always remain consistent because they can deal with the obstacles of life. Because life is full of variables. We plan and then God laughs, so being able to just go with the flow is the name of the game.
Yeah. Are you a religious person?
I wouldn't say religious, but I do believe in God of some sort. I don't necessarily.
Why wouldn't you say religious? Like, what do you mean by that?
The connotation of religion, honestly, I don't really have too many thoughts about it. I'm still kind of in that process, but I would consider myself to be somewhat spiritual, in the sense that I believe in a higher power. I think I found truths and lessons in all religions, especially coming back into that conversation of being worldly traveled. taking little bits and pieces from all the different teachings, because essentially a lot of them do say similar things, but in different ways. How about yourself?
I'm not religious.
You're not religious.
And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily spiritual. I don't have anything against it at all. And I'm actually open to the idea of being involved with that.
Well, it's usually the people that say they're not spiritual that are. And we can get into deep, in a good way. It means that you elaborate on that. What does that mean for you? That actually...
So, I look to religion or spirituality as a means to ground your reality in, and to sort of justify why certain things happen or don't happen. Yep. It's kind of like, a guiding star, a voice of reason. I found my voice of reason to be science and biology.
Yep.
And my voice of reason is grounded in measurable data, science, that's how I live my life, according to, is this biologically accurate? Is this scientifically accurate? And I kind of ground my reality in that. And it's worked out for me thus far. But I can totally see how other people would look to a religion to ground their reality.
Yeah, we're pretty on the same page, but whether we are or not doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think there's insights to both. Yeah. I think being data-driven and scientifically driven is a great way to go about things, because even nature is scientific in some sense, but you can't really necessarily explain how, the Earth was created scientifically. I mean, there's theories, right?
Yeah. My theories naturally revolve around scientific processes and natural processes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's just I'm scientifically oriented, since a childhood, because I never had that guiding star of religion necessarily. So I look to.
I didn't grow up in a specific religion of any sorts. The only thing I was raised in really was this concept of mindfulness and yoga.
Right.
So I feel fortunate not to have been I don't want to say brainwashed in a negative way, but my father had taken us to all different sorts of teachers, and I've gotten the chance to kind of make my own decision. And that's led me to kind of just fall into this individuality. And my active spirituality is something as simple as just looking inside, going inwards, listening to myself, going through myself. That's something that's been given me comfort, just going into silence. But that's not what it looks like for everybody else. People sometimes need that kind of, like you said, that sense of let this all make sense for me in a simple way, even if it's not true.
Right.
If that works for them. I think the best part about religions is the moral conduct aspect of it.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
That there's a strong moral conduct which eventually leads to beautiful things in general.
For sure. I empathize deeply with what you're saying, and I truly believe that the world is better off having unified values, or having pockets of unified values, that being religion.
Yeah.
Let's divert away from religion, because I'm not the most knowledgeable on it, but I actually would like to become more knowledgeable on it.
You should maybe interview a priest or
yeah, maybe.
That would be an interesting conversation, actually.
It certainly would be.
Because you could battle the science versus religion. I've seen some amazing talks with in that kind of demographic, but
I actually wouldn't look at it as a battle necessarily, because I think we're both just looking for some sort of semblance of truth, and we're both looking to just ground our realities. And I think we've just chosen different paths. So it wouldn't necessarily be a battle, because I'm not trying to prove anyone right or wrong necessarily. I think it's more of it's just discourse at that point.
Chapter 4, Artistry of Expression, Creating Balance Between Input and Output.
Do you consider yourself an artist?
Dude, that question is a beautiful question. Yeah, because the reason I say it's beautiful is because I had so much doubt with it, like I was telling you. I never considered myself to be an artist. I never would have ever identified as one, just out of don't even go there, But
Why? Were there negative connotations that you had?
because
to
I've
being an
never
artist?
been I don't want to say creative, but like I've never been a good painter. I've never been a good drawer. And I think people associate artistry with those kind of crafts.
And
But
and you did too, I assume.
yeah,
To a
I
degree,
did too.
yeah.
I did too. And I think the reason this conversation came up earlier is because I was like, I had just from our conversations, but especially meeting you in person, you have this humble confidence about you. And I think that comes from, there's certain ways you can have confidence. One could be power by association. One could be power by accomplishments. But I think your power is a little bit deeper because it comes from your craft and your own personal experience. It's not coming from, oh, I know this person, I know this person.
Right.
It's coming from like, look at my work, like look what I've experienced and how I've, do you resonate with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a deeply integrated confidence, I would say.
Yeah.
And I can say that with confidence because like I know it is. And that is honestly, I love that about myself. And I have a great respect and relationship for all of the hard work and connections and relationships and time under tension, all of that stuff that I've put myself through to, you know, pressure creates diamonds. And I feel as though I've pressurized myself to a high degree and I'm coming out the other end as a diamond too.
Would you say you're pretty hard on yourself in general?
Hard isn't, I wouldn't use hard to describe that. I think there's a better word there. I hold myself to a very high degree of standard.
High standard. Are you ever like, and I ask you this because sometimes I can be like this with myself. Are you ever like down on yourself for not performing at the level that you've expected? Like if it's like a video or like a client project or like, are you ever like
Down isn't the right word. And I'm not trying to,
No, this is good.
yeah. Down isn't the right word. I don't get down on myself. There is a sense of, what is the word? Anxiety related to not progressing at the speed that I need to be. It's an anxiety type feeling. It's not like I'm being hard on myself, like, fuck, Ty, you should have done better. It's never that.
It's never that.
Because I have enough respect for myself that I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't
a good
do that.
relationship
I wouldn't do that to my mom. I wouldn't do that to you because I have a respect for that other person, just like I do for myself.
That's a really good point. And, you know, Jordan Peterson, I know he's one of your role models. He says one of the most important things is developing a good relationship with yourself. And he says,
Yes.
take yourself out on dates more. Or that's one of the things he said. I think it fell under another rule, but essentially he's like, what did he say? He was like, treat yourself like you would treat somebody else that you really love.
Right.
And I think it's so much easier to treat other people with kindness, but having that self-love and that self-kindness is sometimes way more difficult because our dialogue is always conflicting. It's always like,
Why do you think it's that? Why do you think it's more difficult? Like, you would think that it would be easy to love yourself because you're always with yourself and you know yourself the best to an extent.
Right, and
You would
that's
think it would be,
but when someone else in your family suffering from like, or you're gonna talk to them like, man, like just keep trying, like you're gonna do better, like it's all gonna be okay, like look at it from the bigger picture. But when it happens to you,
Yeah.
it's a little bit like it's harder to speak to yourself in that way. It's easier to get it from a friend. But I think that's the practice of like just being more self-compassionate and realizing that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you're not where you are because, you know, you got lucky. It's consistent hard work over a period of time that has refined certain results. But
so we were dancing around artistry a
yeah,
little bit.
let's get back. I love our tangents.
Yeah. So you would consider yourself an artist, and it's kind of taken you a little bit of time to come to that conclusion and realization. And I think that's totally fair. And I think your assumptions about being an artist is totally fair and grounded in like a lot of social accuracies.
Yeah.
I never had difficulty classifying myself as an artist because I had a more broad approach to the word artist. It never meant painter to me. It never meant photographer. It never meant any sort of medium outlet. I think the word artist presupposes the medium. So, you know, you were mentioning painter, sculptor, whatever. Classically, that's what artists are.
Yeah.
But
When
like
you look at it in Merriam-Webster, maybe that's what it would say.
maybe, but I look at the artist, like, you're an artist and the medium to which you choose is almost irrelevant. Like, you're either an artist or you're not.
Wow.
And the vehicle to which you express your art is completely irrelevant.
So are you saying anyone can be an artist?
No, I'm not saying anyone can be an artist. I'm saying, because not everyone is an artist necessarily. And I think that I think you innately have it in you or you don't. But the terminology artist, I always looked at it as someone who has the capacity to create art.
Wow, dude, that's it. That's it right there. Someone who has the capacity to create. Doesn't even have to be art.
Sure, you're right. Someone who has the capacity to create, yes.
And that's kind of really resonates, because I think when you can come from a place of like unlocking your own creativity, I think that's it. It could literally even be creating your own life.
Sure, that could be an art, absolutely.
Like
people live artistic lives that manifest in just their lifestyle, for sure.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There was a really big study done. I often share this in yoga class. It was a study done on happiness. It was one of the largest studies ever done on happiness. I think they interviewed over 5,000 people, and they interviewed people from different places on planet Earth, so it was geographically diverse.
Yeah.
And they interviewed people also that had different economic situations. So anywhere from plumbers to bricklayers to, you know, very wealthy people. And they found that one of the things that they all had in common for the happiest people was they all considered themselves to be artists, which was very interesting to me.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And that ties into like this kind of buzzwordy terminology that's floating around the internet right now, which is create more than you consume.
Oof.
And I am a firm believer that in order to be happy, you have to create more and put more out into this world than you consume from it. And that's aligned with that study that you're mentioning.
Yep.
I firmly believe that, especially in today's consumer-heavy environment, you know, it's very difficult to be happy because we're consuming so much. So you have to offset that consumption with creation.
Offset, I like that.
You know, this kind of is in conflict with what I was saying before about how not everyone can be an artist. I don't know, what's your take on that? Do you think that everyone in this world has the capacity to create? Because I maybe have a pessimistic look on that. I don't think that
I think it's because like,
all people
and I don't
do.
want to like create separation between us, but I do feel like there are levels. Like someone like you, I don't want to say you're a real artist and I'm not, but like, I do want to say like and have respect that there are levels to artistry. I think certain people have an innate ability to create something of originality and to create something of like, they're just always creating ideas.
Yeah, if I could just interject there.
Yeah.
I think it's less of an innate ability, more of time fostering ability. I think you're an artist, that you have that in you, or you're not. And the degrees to which you're talking about, like the levels, come as a consequence of time cultivating said artistry. So I think we all have a base level of artistry.
Is that kind of like the nature versus nurture though? Like look at LeBron, like he had a certain amount of talent, but he wouldn't still be LeBron James if he didn't put in the excessive amount of work.
Yes, that is very similar to nature versus nurture. Yes. So I wouldn't say I am exceptionally artistic. I know I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I've just been doing it consistently and longer than the next guy.
Well, that's cool to hear because, you know, now it makes it a little bit more accessible for people that maybe don't consider themselves to be creative. And they can just kind of, but ultimately like peeling back the layer and just like moving it more to like a general standpoint, I think ultimately it's a perspective to have. Like if you see yourself as an artist, you're seeing yourself as the creator of your own reality. And that's all that matters. Doesn't matter if you're good at generating new ideas, leave that to AI. Like you're creating your reality and you're sculpting your life. That the world doesn't come at you, but it comes from you.
That's interesting. I like that.
And I think that's the key thing that connects people to their happiness is like when they're living in purpose and they're coming from a place of, like you said, like they're creating more than they're consuming. Because consuming is like a bottomless bucket. It's like that will eventually just drain you.
Yeah. I look at it as, actually, I don't look at it as a bottomless bucket. I look at it as a bucket with a finite size.
For consumption?
Yes,
Okay.
and when you consume too much, the bucket overflows. And you get sick, you get anxious, you get overwhelmed because it's spilling out into you. And the only way to mitigate those effects of your bucket filling up is to output, is to create. So you're balancing out that consumption bucket.
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna take that. That's
Yeah.
a cool way to look at it, because you're right. It's not like it's going somewhere, and if you're filling yourself constantly with, entertainment that's not serving you, that's full of violence or full of things that are, you're not necessarily offsetting it. I think that word offsetting is interesting, because usually when I hear that word, it's like offset your carbon emissions. But it's like, no, offset your consumption.
Yeah,
Offset the time that you spend at your desk with movement.
right.
Play those opposites of life and like make sure there's balance. Because I think at the end of the day, that's all what we're striving for is balance.
Yes.
And it's so hard in a modern society.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. It, like, the amount of inputs that we have is far greater outweighs the typical person's capacity to output. And that's how I look at it, input, output. So for example, reading is an input because you're taking stuff in, and then writing is an output because you're putting stuff out.
Ooh.
So, reading, input, writing, output. And there's just so many more inputs. There's such a variety of inputs, not a lot of variety in
And would you say it's
outputs.
more difficult to output than input from like an energy level standpoint, or?
Oh, in today's society, absolutely yes. Because, capitalism breeds easy input. Fast food, easy input. Scrolling, easy input. Dating apps, easy input. But nothing has been done to the most high. Not enough has been done on the output side. There are things that benefit output, like iPads benefit output, because now, you don't need a pen and paper to carry with you all the time to write. Now you can just bring your iPad, and like there are things that do facilitate a more efficient output, but to the degree that the inputs are moving, it isn't fast enough to keep up. And people are feeling lost, overwhelmed, and they don't know how to get all of this stuff out. They don't know how to get all of this stuff inside of their head outside. They don't have enough creative outlets.
No, that's the truth, man. I think that we're constantly like, as human beings, we all want to learn. Like we all want to there's an innate kind of, we want to take in information, but like putting it into practice is the hard part. And I hope this doesn't come off arrogant, but in a weird way, we kind of already know everything. Obviously, we don't know all the facts of planet Earth, but like we know everything we need to know in this moment. The hard part is living what you know and putting it into practice. And I've seen that happen even with myself and some of my students. They get into this place where they're like, oh, I want to constantly take trainings. I want to constantly take courses. But at some point, you got to put that into reality.
Yes.
You got to experientialize it after you intellectualize it.
That's, ooh. What did you say?
So,
Experientialize it?
We're moving from intellectualizing.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, like me and you are having a great conversation. I'm getting a lot out of it. We're intellectualizing right now.
Yeah.
Which is the seed of the fruit.
Right.
But ultimately, you have to experientialize it, which means essentially putting it into practice.
Yes.
Physically.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just a thought.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah, learning is nothing without application.
Yes, the application is the right word too. There you go.
Execution. There's a lot of words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I like that a lot.
So, ask yourself, if you're listening, do you consider yourself an artist? And sit with that. Meditate on that. And if you don't, then it's okay. Just,
What can we? If someone isn't innately an artist, actually, I don't know if we're the most qualified to speak on that. Like, how would you get someone who isn't an artist to output and create? You know what I mean? Because we're speaking like very highly of
Yeah.
output creation side of things. But if
I don't
someone
think
innately doesn't have that in them,
I think everybody has the innate ability to express themselves. And I think
Right.
that's a form of art.
okay, you're right.
So I would say anything from movement to, like you just journaling, these are all forms of art.
Yes.
Playing, singing in the car, like express yourself. People, at the end of people's lives, the biggest regret that they have is that they wish they would have expressed themselves more. And this is a form of art, and this is something that we often don't fully step into because of certain fears or insecurities. And I think that is why artists are genuinely happier, because they have a medium in which to express themselves. There's different ways. It could be literally drawing, it could be videography, it could be content creation, it could be dance, it could be yoga. Those are all different modalities in which to express yourself.
Yeah, right.
So talk about science. Like for me, the word science means experimentation with observation. And then you get results. You learn from those things. So try as many things as you want. Get into that experimental phase. Like go roller skating. Try something new you've never done before. Like
Totally.
listen to a podcast and then go do the thing, just do it.
Hey, so you're sponsored by Nike. Yeah. We were getting to this a little bit prior, but
Yeah.
how has that impacted your life, and what safeguards have you had to put in place in your own life to not allow that to get to your head to a certain degree?
Ooh, that's an interesting way to look at it. For me, Nike was just like, I grew up an athlete, so like Nike was like the epitome of like athlete. It's like, it was the goal. I played basketball, so Jordan, I looked up to these guys my whole life. So having this check, the Nike,
I'm Nike'd out, bro.
Ooh,
I got the
you wear
check
that for
on
me, bro?
Yeah.
Having that kind of validation, it could maybe get to your head a little bit, but for me, it was more like resources. I thought of it as like resource. And what I mean by that is Nike was a great medium in which for me to speak and share yoga to the mainstream. Because when you put a swoosh on something, you immediately make it cool.
Yeah.
And for most of my life and my father's life, yoga was like weird,
not
man.
cool.
Like it was like, I got made fun of as a kid for doing yoga. My dad being the weird yoga teacher. Like, dude, Lululemon did not exist when I was in elementary school.
Right.
It was just kind of on the surface. Actually started in Canada.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
So like, for me, Nike is like a great example of giving someone with culture resources. And
leverage also. Like,
leverage. So now I can like focus on the art more. Like Nike, they give me resources. So now I don't have to work. I don't have to spend so many hours trying to survive, and I can use that energy into creating experiences for people to create transformation.
Yeah, awesome. What do you think it was that happened at Nike that made them open up to the idea of embracing yoga? What shifted?
First of all, they were very late to the game. I think they just saw how many people it was benefiting. Plus, I think they also saw like the cool component of it, and the companies like Lululemon and Alo Yoga that were kind of like pioneering it. And they're like, you know what? It's like, and Nike will admit that to you, But I think that Nike tries to come in with things at a very unique angle, whereas like Nike actually has a very beautiful sense of awareness on inclusivity. Like if you see any of their campaigns, like they're very inclusive, from diversity to body types. And I think they did a really good job at approaching yoga and coming from a place of yoga's for everybody, literally. Everybody and everybody.
Is that their coinage?
No, I just kind of made that up, but they live that. In the way that we even sequence our classes on the app to like how they advertise the clothes. And for me, I respect that, and that's something I want to be a part of.
Wow.
Because yoga isn't designed for one specific archetype. It's yoga postures, and we can kind of, I don't know how deep we want to go into the yoga practice, but yoga postures are essentially calisthenics, body weight movements that came from the East. And they were designed to creatively touch every single part of your body. So different poses might touch the knee and the ankle or the hip flexor or the, the hamstring. Some postures might touch the shoulder or the bicep or the wrist. So whoever came up with these basically came up with all these different postures to almost like you floss your teeth, to floss every single part of your body and take care of yourself for optimal longevity of health.
Right.
It was never based on performance. It was never based on aesthetics.
Right.
Which most people's fitness goals are based on aesthetics, which won't really get you that far in the long run.
For sure. I agree with that fully. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I as you know, I've kind of fallen into the world of yoga to an extent.
Yeah, I see you rolling out your mat and getting your practice.
Yeah. I really appreciate what yoga has done for me on the presence of mind plane, on the overall body health and awareness plane. And it's a hidden gem, I would say, because as you were mentioning, it's not cool yet necessarily. It's getting there. It's almost there. And I think I'm an early adopter of the mainstream to an extent.
You are. Like, it's still, I think they said that 20% of people out of the pool of people who even do fitness, which is like even smaller than the 100%, have even tried yoga.
Okay.
So you're still in like that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about because it's been around for thousands of years.
Right. Yeah, and I think the need for yoga is being exacerbated by today's, Western modern society of always sitting and always scrolling, always looking down, all of these things that negatively impact our health, and also the lowering need for people to get out and be active, like in today's society, we don't need to move ever, honestly. You can wake up, sit on your computer all day, and then go to sleep if you wanted to, and you could make a living.
We're constantly hunching over our keyboards, our steering wheels, our desks.
Yeah.
We're constantly in this hunch position, so we need more exercises that increase our posture.
Absolutely.
Even like us just sitting here on this rock, like it's testing our ability.
Bro, I freaking hate it. I actually, that's a good segue. I have an idea. Let's post up somewhere, do some yoga, but stay mic'd up, and we'll just like finish off the podcast while like standing and like doing some yoga stuff.
Love it.
Okay.
This is fun, man. That was a good segment.
Chapter 5. The importance of movement in today's society, building a foundation of health.
So in your opinion, how important do you think it is to get your body moving in today's society?
I think today's society, it's more important than ever because we're constantly in boxes, chairs, right angled. Everything that we do is like we're sitting down.
Yeah.
And we've kind of lost a lot of the muscles in our legs and mobility in our hips.
Yes.
Which is kind of what gives us that freedom of movement. I always say the more that your hips are open, the more that you can do everything else with ease.
Right.
And that's even sitting for longer periods of time without like pain in your back.
Yeah.
So even like a good example is we took all the furniture out of our house.
Really?
So we cut off all the legs. So even our tables like super low to the ground, we have no chairs, we just have little cushions.
Really?
And that was a cool lifestyle change that kind of forced us to like sit down, like use our ankles and like have good posture.
Wow.
You can't do this over the table. You have to eat.
Very interesting.
So even just being able, they say that like, I think it's a high percentage. I don't want to be quoted on this, but can't even stand up without using their hands.
Let me see if I can do that.
Try it.
Like from this position?
Yep. Oh, I mean,
Nice.
You're an athlete.
No, I wanted to make sure I could do it.
I'd be a little worried if you couldn't. But then you can like take that up a notch. Like, can you do it on one leg? Let's see if I can do it. Little pistol squat. Now you're more into like the 1 percentile.
Okay, hang on, I could do this. Oh, maybe I can't. No, this is like a deep pistol squat though.
So you have the strength, but there you go. So for you, it's more so about ankle mobility.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways, I just think it's important to have flexibility. There's one of my favorite quotes. I heard it from my father. He says, "Flexibility without strength leaves you with rigidity."
Okay.
I'm
Why?
sorry. Strength without flexibility leaves you with rigidity.
Yeah, that makes a little more
Makes more
sense.
sense. Sorry.
Yes.
Now, to the caveat of that, flexibility without strength leaves you with instability.
Yes.
Because now you're just loose and gimbal, you have no firm foundation.
Right.
So having that balance of mobility to strength, so if you are someone that goes to the gym and lifts weights, like make sure you're working on your shoulder mobility.
Right.
From a physical standpoint, you're just gonna have more longevity and more functionality.
For sure. I find it's, in order to live a healthy, happy, like high degree of efficiency lifestyle, your body needs to be operating at its highest capacity. And I think I've only found that I operate at high capacities when I'm strong, when I'm flexible, when I'm nimble, when I'm athletic, when my grip strength is good, when my ankle strength is good, when my heart health is good. And I think people they don't have that fully ingrained in them for some reason. And they think that they may look to external sources to get them to operate at a high efficiency, like, caffeine, Adderall. They look to external sources to like prop themselves up, as opposed to looking internal on how they can improve their internal bodies.
Ain't that the truth, man?
Sleep. People take sleep aids for sleep. When I think like a lot of the crux of it comes down to being super healthy.
Yeah, like sleep is a great example. Like it's one of the most simple health tips. Get higher quality sleep, you're gonna have a more improved health.
Yes.
Being healthy is important, but going through the physical is sometimes the needed proponent first. Like there's so many aspects to health. There's like mental well-being, there's emotional well-being, and there's spiritual well-being and
Right.
physical well-being.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to go through the doorway marked physical first.
Yes.
A lot of traffic here.
It's fine. This will actually be quite interesting. I'm
Yeah.
curious how this will look and pan out.
Yeah, totally. So what I'm saying is oftentimes if someone's on their health journey, most of the time they go through the physical journey first.
Yes.
And then that translates into everything else. And I think because it gives you the framework, it gives you the foundation, and everything else kind of comes from that, if that makes sense.
Yes. Your health is the foundation of your entire life. I think it's the most important thing in your entire life. I think it takes precedent over everything, because without your health, you have nothing. So
Without your health, you can't even give or love your loved ones in the best way that you want to.
Absolutely.
You can't serve your family in the way that you want to.
absolutely, I equate it to, how in airplanes the safety reading dictates that
Oh yeah.
when you're about to crash or whatever, oxygen mask will drop down, and you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you tend to your loved ones or anyone else, because if you don't put it on first, you're useless if you're incapacitated. You know what I mean?
Which
So-
at first seems counterintuitive to hear that, because you're like, hell no, I'm gonna put it on my baby first, or my,
Right.
But you have to, it's life or death.
Yeah,
And
you're completely useless if you don't have the capacity to help. Same with your health. You have no capacity to help the people in your lives if you can't even help yourself, right?
Exactly.
So you need, yes.
Yeah, and also just there's a quote too where it says, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in the war.
Yes.
Who said that? Some famous philosopher.
You actually retweeted, I posted that a bunch.
Maybe I got that from you then.
You did. You totally did. It's the quote is, yes, you said it right. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener at war.
Right. So it's I always think to myself, I don't plan on going to war soon, but if you think of war as kind of what we were talking about earlier, the obstacles of life, the challenges that are going to arise, they're always going to be there.
Yes.
You can kind of see your workouts as you're in training. That's how I like to look at it. Every time I show up on my mat or I go to the gym, I'm in training.
Right.
I may not know exactly what for, but when that moment arises, I'm gonna be more often ready to face it because of this pre-existing training. So
That's a great point, yeah.
Yeah, we're always in training, and with great preparation meets opportunity. And I think that you don't necessarily need to have this super refined vision of what you want to be or what you're in training for. Obviously, it's helpful if you're running a marathon or something very specific. But for the average day human, not we're not training to be Olympic athletes. We're training.
What are we training for?
We're training for those moments where we're going to need that strength. That could be losing a loved one. That could be being in the hospital yourself.
Right.
Or that could be, you know, some kind of physical challenge or like even everyday things. The reason I do yoga is for simple things. So my knees and ankles, everything stays healthy so I can bend over and tie my shoe without pain.
Yeah.
I mean, people make this shit way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, that's true, you know?
Most people can't even bend down and pick up something without their back hurting, or they can't even sit down.
How is your pain levels right now? Do you have no body pain? Or do you have body pain?
Walking around, no body pain. I only have body pain when I push farther than I need to.
Right.
So if I go into a handstand and I touch my feet to my head and I really try to like push without a warm up,
yes,
I'm gonna hurt my back because I'm not listening. Pain is just your body saying, it's screaming to you in the language of sensation.
Oh.
So pain is like really actually a good thing because it's speaking to you. It's telling you what you need to stay away from.
Yes.
It's actually helpful. And so is inflammation too, in a weird way.
Right.
So pain is actually a roadmap to listening to ourselves. And what I found, and my uncle preaches this a lot, he's a yoga teacher as well, and he says that the name of the game is being gentle with yourself.
Yeah. All right, where do you want to take this?
So you've been dabbling in your yoga practice.
A little bit.
I feel like you're kind of a really great bridge to like a lot of people like trying yoga, because like you're an athlete, you're someone that, you know, does a lot of different things, but you utilize yoga as a tool to increase your mental performance.
Yeah, I do.
So I would say maybe I could give you a few postures that you could take with you, or maybe we could work on some handstands.
Yeah, give me the, I would say like the fundamentals. I want to refine my fundamentals, and I think that would be applicable to someone also watching this.
Yeah, so ultimately like the first step is the breath. So having a continuous, more even flowing breath, a deep breath, a forceful breath.
Yep.
And this just allows us to kind of focus on the breath mentally, but as well as like expand our rib cage and our chest and broaden our back. So let's make it fun.
Yeah, please.
Feel like let's do a few handstands. Why
Okay.
not?
Yeah.
Let me see what you got. Want to try right here?
Sure.
I'll do one without like spotting you. I just kind of want to see where your balance is at.
I'm curious as well.
See what we can.
Okay, actually not that bad, dude. Holy shit.
Dude.
Actually
very impressive.
Thank you. I feel like when I'm stable, I'm just balancing. I'm not incorporating the musculature to maintain that. I feel like it's kind of luck that I'm staying up there. That's why I went into that being like, I have no idea what's gonna happen. I don't have that strength to.
So the way you had done it, did you kick up with one leg or two? Let me see. You kind of like cartwheeled into it. See? Yep. Amazing. So you have a really good foundation. Like you obviously have the strength, you have the balance. Now it's like just refining like subtly.
Okay.
One way to do that is like you're kicking up. If you come up a little slower, this is called the press. This helps you not like walk around so much.
Okay.
But it takes a little bit more awareness of core and hip placement. So
awareness of core.
So essentially a handstand is like building a building, right? You have your base, your foundation, and then you have the stack.
Okay.
It's just science, like it's not anything. So stand here, or the camera's right here. So put your hands on the floor and come into like a forward fold. You can put a bend in your knees. Yep.
Like
and
this?
Walk your feet up a little higher so you're sloping your hips. Yep. And now drop your head, and you're gonna imagine like I'm a wall. You're gonna lean into me, and then the hips come over the shoulders and the legs float up. Good. Now you're stacked. Now you can turn your gaze between your hands.
I can what?
Yep, right there.
Yeah.
Now squeeze my hand. Squeeze. Good. So now you're utilizing your core. All right, come down slow. One leg at a time. Nice. So essentially, I didn't really help you much.
Really?
It
felt like you were.
No, all I did was I pulled your hips over your shoulders.
Right.
So as soon as I did that, the legs kind of floated up effortlessly.
Ah.
So that's kind of an interesting, a lot of people think, oh, you need a strong core to do a handstand, but it's really having strong shoulders.
I want to practice that get up movement because I feel like you assisted me pretty heavily on that.
You'd be surprised. I didn't do much. It just felt like it. So, and when your hips come over, make sure to press down through your fingertips. Those will act like brakes.
Okay. How do I fucking?
Yeah.
I feel an inclination to like need to jump
So bring your feet closer together.
like that.
Yep, touching. Strong hands. Press your hands down. Now come onto your tippy toes. And now as soon as you feel a little lift, open the legs wide. Legs wide. Yep, right there. Good. Come down. Woo! So it's tough, man, because like what happens is like sometimes you're like inches away
Yes.
and it feels like you can't move from here.
Right.
But you just need to find a little bit more compression and the
Wow.
legs will float up.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll try that one more time.
Yeah, it's coming. Gonna take a little hop. Yes, right there. Now let's kind of get your line down. Pull the belly in. Right there, strong shoulders. Point the toes. Beautiful. Now bring the knees into the chest. Slow.
Into the chest.
Yep, right there. Breathe. Bring the knees down slow, and then feet. Yes, those are the muscles you want to work.
Wow.
You feel those right here?
Yes.
Woo.
I've never done that
Work
ever.
it, my guy.
Jesus Christ.
You can practice these too, like down dog, kind of tuck jumps,
Okay.
and then land a little closer towards your feet. And that will kind of help you feel the hips. It's called the cantilever principle in architecture. In order to have a certain amount of weight forward, you need to have a certain amount of weight back. Yes, and slowing that down. Woo-hoo. Already getting better, dude.
It's hard. Not easy. Not easy.
And I've been really liking incorporating. I've been following this guy named Brad Terrell. He does a lot of like, he calls it movement patterns. It's like based in yoga, but it's like his own flair.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like come into a toe squat here. Have you heard of that guy, knees over toes?
Yes, I love him.
He's cool too.
I love his,
Do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Coming back. All right, let's do a little mobility test here. Come into a full squat. And then just drop your knee down here. Oh, dude, you're great. Back, drop. Okay. One more time, and you said?
Wow, this is good. I definitely feel this.
Nice. Now, come up. A little wider. Nice. And you're just gonna drop the hip onto the heel. Yeah. Okay. Now you're gonna bring your thumbs to your heart center. Extend your arms and drop onto the hip. Like you're sitting down. Pick up the left foot to meet your right. Good, come back to the position.
Oh gosh.
And then reach your torso inside and see if you can come right back.
No.
That's the hard part, right? Inside, so reach more diagonal and see if you can come up. That's all ankle hip.
Ankle hip. It's this?
Yeah, bring it a little closer in. And then use this hand to support you. And then just come up.
I can do that with the support.
There you go. And now keep your hips low and just change sides. And then drop. Then you switch. Nice.
Nice. I feel that a lot.
Perfect.
I can see how that'd be really strength and stretching at the same time.
Yep.
Oh. Why'd
How you feeling?
I feel great. Why'd you mention knees over toes guy?
I love him. I think that what he's brought, like the stereotypes and myths he's broken around that,
Yeah.
it's just been a game changer. Because even in yoga, like they say, stack the knee over the ankle when you're in a warrior two.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, why? every natural movement we do, our knees always over our toes.
That's valid as fuck, yes.
So if we practice something repetitively over that has like perfect alignment,
Yeah.
it's actually not benefiting us for real life situations.
Mm-hmm.
How's your back bends? How's your back health?
I actually have very poor lower back health.
Do you have any back pain?
I do. I think I've worked it out to be like hip flexor related.
Okay, so it's less about like the discs. It's more so the tightness on the front side.
I think so. Yeah, but I
Would
do
you be
have lower
open
back.
to
Yeah.
a slight adjustment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is gonna be really fun.
Don't kill me though.
I won't, promise. Full trust. All right, so you're gonna stand up
Let's move just a little bit.
right here.
Yeah.
So you're actually gonna stand up and you're gonna turn around. Yep. And you're gonna place your hand, step to the right slightly. Yep. Walk up a little bit more towards me. Good. Now you're gonna reach for my ankles. Yep, right there. Perfect. And now just lean back. I got you. Just breathe and then slowly release your hands. Good. How's that feel?
Yeah, good.
Feel supported?
Yes.
Reach back for your ankles. Yeah. Dude, you got great mobility. Just take a few breaths here. This is called acro yoga.
Nice. This is crazy.
Yeah, dude. All right, now good. Release your ankles. Good. Now just draw your left knee up into your chest slightly. Good. Now drop the back down, the leg. Good. Just breathe here. This is release the legs. This is your, totally let it go. This is your piriformis. Bring your arms like in front of you, alongside of you. So, like bring them all the way down. Yeah, like that. So you can more get here. Good. Now bring this knee up into your chest. Switch. Drop it low. Yeah, relax completely. Good. Now you're going to press into this knee. Draw this knee up towards the sky. Switch. Relax completely. So right now I'm working into the piriformis muscle, one of the tightest, tensest muscles in your entire body.
Wow.
Good.
This is insane.
Press through here. Yep, lift it back up. Relax. And we're just gonna get you into a chair here. And you slowly come up.
Oh my gosh.
Woohoo!
That was sick, bro. I actually love that. That was like, wow.
First time flyer?
Literally, yeah, first time flying.
Yeah, so that's like a modality. I don't use it all the time, but like, it's just another art form. It's like, they call it Thai yoga massage, Thai fly.
I'm Thai.
There you go.
No, that was really cool.
Thank
That's
you.
very interesting. How did you get into that?
Let's finish in a hip opener. Let's go
Yeah.
into a pigeon. So slide the left knee up towards the left wrist. And try to slide that right knee back. And it's okay if you need to slightly move onto the left hip, but ultimately we kind of want to square. So how did I get into that specifically?
Yeah. What is it called?
You lived in Santa Monica, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember like the Ferris wheel, like the pier?
Yeah.
Right below that, there was a little patch of grass where like all the gymnasts used to hang out,
Okay.
and yogis and acrobats. And I went there every Sunday because they do like a little jam session. And that's where I learned it from, actually happened to be the founder of it. His name's Jason Niemer.
Is he on Instagram?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've seen his stuff.
You might have.
Does he do like videos of like acro yoga with like a bunch of random people?
Probably.
Okay. I probably have seen it.
There's a lot of acro yogis now. It's pretty popular.
Okay.
But yeah, so
that was fun. That was cool.
yeah, it's cool. It's like a nice way to connect.
I've never been moved. Yeah, that too. And I've never been moved in that capacity with like gravity pulling on me.
Yep.
And having like, that was very cool.
All right, from here, you're just gonna come on your right forearm and raise your left arm up.
Oh gosh, dude, how? I don't have that in
Come
me.
up onto your hand a little bit higher.
Oh man.
It definitely intensifies it. Good. Plant your hand down. Tuck your right toes under. Inhale, pick up your left leg to the sky. Good. Set it down. Change sides. Slide the right knee up to the right wrist. And then slide that left hip flexor back. And you'll kind of fall into that perfect point of pressure. Drop your forearms down and try to soften here. But yeah, this is it's a cool part of the practice. This also we're doing right now is called yin yoga.
Right.
And this is where like the muscles actually kind of get out of the way. It's more so fascia and connective tissues, ligaments opening in that way. And that's important because that's what gives us the greater range of motion.
Amazing.
Not all yoga has to be like super intense physical. This is the yoga that you're probably going to carry on with you until you're older.
Do you plan on doing yoga for the rest of your life?
I don't. It's kind of like, I don't see it going anywhere.
Nice.
I don't know that I'll have a career for it the rest of my life. We'll see.
I hope so. I feel like you've really unlocked
Yeah.
an optimal style of living where you get to live out your passion for health and yoga and get paid for it.
Thankfully, man, it's been a cool ride, but like for me, yoga's always been the platform in which I can do everything else.
Right. That's cool. That's really cool.
And I never like want to like put too much pressure on myself, like making money from teaching yoga. That makes sense because it kind of takes away you can't really charge for something so invaluable.
Yes.
I mean, you can try to put a price tag on a class, but what are you basing that off of? Like the rent from the studio or to turn on the lights and the heat? You can't really charge on like a deep conversation, or you can't charge on these like,
Yeah, well, I'm going to charge you $200 for this conversation. I'm kidding.
Sure, bro. I learned a lot. What, for a twist? Send me an invoice. Oof.
Wow, you really got that mobility unlock, eh?
Dude, I'm still working on it. Like, flexibility is an opinion.
That's true, yeah.
Roll under your hip. Because you think I'm flexible.
Can we just scoot this way a little bit, just in case we're not fully in frame?
You think I'm flexible, and you go meet a gymnast or someone in the Circus Olay, and you're like, fuck.
That's true.
Flexible.
That's true. That's very true, actually.
That's why I like to use the word supple.
Okay.
Because where your muscles exist without tension. That's the key. No one said you ever needed to touch your head to your knee or your head to your foot.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you a happier, healthier person.
Right. It's just existing without tension.
Exactly. Tension's just trapped energy.
What is tension like, actually? I know you said trapped energy, but
Yeah.
what is happening at the muscular level for it to be tight? Is it guarding against something? Do you know?
Yeah, so a lot of the movements and things that we do throughout the day, they lead to tension and compression. So what happens is when you work a muscle, like when you use it, it tightens like a rubber band.
Right.
So because of this, we need to do the opposite.
We need to loosen
We need
it
to
up.
offset.
Yeah.
From running to walking, those things are really gonna tense your hamstrings,
Yeah.
your quads, and your glutes.
Yeah.
Because you're utilizing them repetitively. So if I was gonna create a yoga for runners class, I would probably focus on postures that lengthen the quad, open the hip flexor, in the hip.
For sure.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Who's the demographic that you appreciate teaching yoga to the most?
I would say I have the most fun teaching to people that are just willing to not take themselves so seriously and just get in a flow.
And what do you mean by get in a flow? What does that mean to you?
Like people that like sometimes I'll teach to people, man, and they'll just like look at me like a deer in headlights, like
Really?
or they'll just be so stuck in their head and like, am I doing this right or wrong? And it's like, it's just organic movement. Like, yes, people think they're gonna walk into a class and like be a master on the first day.
Right.
And it's like, no one in their right mind would ever walk into a karate studio and think that.
Yeah.
Why would they walk into a yoga class and think that? It's a progressive style of movement, just like anything else would be. But you can still get the benefit just by trying. That's the difference with yoga.
Yeah. I think people are afraid of being bad at things. myself included, for sure. And when I first got into yoga, I attended classes as my first exposure to yoga, and there was definitely a sense of like, of heightened awareness to my incapacity to like perform at a high level.
That's shame on the teacher. Maybe the sheep.
You think so? I don't
I don't want to blame your teacher, but I think that if you felt that way, it either could be like some kind of self-reflection that you had, or the environment was a little off. And sometimes yoga attracts that. Certain styles can be
interesting.
Like Bikram. Dude, I've gotten yelled at in a Bikram class.
Really?
And like told to leave because I wasn't doing the postures the right way they wanted me to.
Interesting. Huh. That's very interesting. I just felt, I actually don't think it was the environment or the teacher. I really just think that it was, in my case, I don't like looking stupid at things.
Yeah.
I don't like being bad at things, and I don't like being a novice. And that often sways me from trying new things.
Right, which is good that you observe that, because you need to get rid of that mentality.
For
and I
sure.
think you already have. Like, look, you're trying yoga with me on the grass and we're doing,
Yeah.
who cares, you know? It's like experimentation with observation. You're a scientist, bro.
Hey.
We gotta keep,
I'm an intellectual athlete, bro.
You're an intellectual, you're a jack nerd, bro. Dude, I'm a flexible nerd.
Yeah, you are. And you're
like
jacked
that.
too. You're jacked too. Surprisingly, considering you said you don't go to the gym too much.
Well, I go to the gym, I just don't
all
lift
of-
weights.
Okay.
Yeah, I just do, you can still create a solid physique just from doing pull-ups, dips, push-ups.
Right, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's super healthy as well.
Yeah.
To being able to manipulate your own body weight, I think is incredibly important. Yeah. I can't do that posture.
Oh, this is just half lotus.
I can't. My hips, I have really, really bad hip flexors.
We need to open those hips up.
Yeah, we do. I do. I have a very
So, but
unhealthy relationship with.
Here's like the full lotus where you get.
Oh my God, I feel like my hips would snap off my body if I did that.
And this is cool because then you can do this.
Right. Dude, that's crazy. It looks like you have no legs. That's
See
awesome.
if I can do it. No, maybe not.
That's really cool. Is that like your party trick, would you say?
Sometimes.
Yeah. What's like, I guess that's probably like one of the cooler tricks in your arsenal.
I mean,
I'm trying to
Got
think
a
what
few.
else I've seen you do.
the one arm one's pretty cool. Let's see if I can show the.
One arm handstand?
No, it's called the one arm stab.
Oh, dang.
The one arm peacock. So essentially, you want to find a contact point from the elbow here.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's hurting the grass. And then eventually, you find a point of balance where you can lift up the arm.
Oh, man. Let me see if I could. Imagine I just hit this first try. Oh, wow. The balancing part's hard.
Yeah, it's.
Oh.
Try this one, Bakasana. It's hard when you're a little sweaty, but. Nice. Now lift one leg up.
Lift one leg up?
Yes. Oh God, dude, that was good.
Oh. Oh, wow. That's sick. Wow, that's cool. This actually feels pretty good, like pretty...
Yeah, dude, that's solid. Lift the heels into the. Yeah. Oh, you got some early bent arm strength. That's.
Thanks.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been
On the show. This is nothing official. I actually want to get your take on the naming of this show. I've kind of just come up with this idea. I've been thinking about like what to name it, and originally I was like, oh, it's gonna be the Ty Frago podcast, but that's boring. I'm thinking about calling it Thank You for Sharing.
Ooh.
The abbreviation is TY for sharing.
Ty.
Because thank you is like, you know, can be abbreviated to TY over text. So Ty for sharing, thank you for sharing.
Ooh.
Thank you for sharing your conversations. And then it also is kind of like the podcast listeners, like if they read that, it kind of encourages like, oh, share the podcast. Like, you know, thank you for sharing. It's kind of like got double meanings. What do you think about that?
Dude, I genuinely love that.
Yeah?
I'm not even gassing you. That's pretty good. Because it kind of, you just knocked out two birds with one stone, and you got the name in there, and it's
It's actually three, I think it's 3 birds, 1 stone. I got my name in there, Ty.
Right.
It also encapsulates like the context of the podcast, which is like sharing conversation, and then also promotes sharing the conversation.
Thank you for sharing. Dude, I'm all in for it. I think you got something really special. I mean, the fact that I was just in a podcast. I don't do many podcasts, but I usually just try to do podcasts with people that inspire me, and you're one of those people. And
Thank you.
I've been a huge fan since I've started following you, which was probably like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I think that what you have and what you're offering here is very different. Like, dude, we're having conversation, and you're not afraid to go deep, and you're also not afraid to try something and get a little
dirty with
a
it.
little dirty, bro. We're rolling around in probably a bunch of dog piss right now.
That's the sickest part, actually. I love that the best. But yeah, dude, thank you for meeting me here.
Yeah.
Very last minute kind of stuff. So glad that like we just happen to be in the city at the same time, which is crazy. Yeah, you made this trip. You've rounded out this trip for me. I wasn't anticipating meeting you. So,
Dude, this is perfect, bro. It's a big honor. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Oh, you got him with it. That actually, dude, it fucking works, man.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Let's go.
I just came up with it today.
And that's a wrap. New York City, baby.
Dude.
Ty Farrago, Jonah Kest.
Dude, we had 3 different scene changes.
Man, what a mish, bro.
Oh, that was crazy.
Thank you for being here with us. If you'd like to support this series, a like and subscribe makes a big difference. Till next time, friends, thank you for sharing.